hairstylist said to me is, "What the hell's going on? Everything's completely out of control. It's nuts. I've never seen it like this." And she's right. But before we get to the obvious of the last 60 days of liberal chaos and the threats that that weakness has invited from incoming President Trump, let's just talk about everything that was out of control before that. Housing costs, out of control, doubled after 9 years of NDP Liberals, rising faster than in any other country in the G7. Food costs, out of control after the NDP Liberal carbon tax caused grocery prices to rise 37% faster in Canada than in the United States, driving 2 million people to food banks. A quarter of our kids, according to federal data, are going to school hungry, and a quarter of our families are living in poverty. The worst inflation in 40 years. After out-of-control Liberal deficits and money printing increased our money supply by $700 billion, or 40%, that is to say 10 times faster than the growth in the output of our economy. Spending out of control. The deficit hit $62 billion. Remember, we were all supposed to accept the excuse that COVID caused the deficit, but as we get further and further away from COVID, the deficit actually gets bigger and bigger. The deficit 50% bigger than it was supposed to be, a fact we found out the same day that the finance minister who was supposed to tell us about this failure resigned and blamed her boss for that failure. Immigration is out of control with a 200% increase in year-over-year population growth, causing a massive housing, social service, and job crisis. Our borders out of control, with dangerous poisons pouring in from China and Mexico and then manufactured into deadly fentanyl that has killed 47,000 of our people. Crime, completely out of control. Violent crime up 50%. Gun crime up 116%. And hate crime up 251% after 9 years of NDP Liberal, radical, woke, catch and release criminal justice policies. Everything is out of control, and now our government is out of control. We have a lame duck prime minister, rejected and fired by his own caucus, unable to respond to threats from abroad or crises that he and his party caused after 9 years at home. And why did they get rid of him? Did Liberal MPs get rid of him because they disagree with his policies, doubling the housing cost? Did they say that all of a sudden they've changed their mind on quadrupling the carbon tax up to 61 cents a litre? Is it because they feel guilty over the hell they've unleashed in our streets? No. They say he's doing a great job. It's just that Canadians unfairly don't like him anymore. And that unpopularity threatens their power, paychecks, and pension. And so, right before an election, the Liberal MPs want to elect another Justin Trudeau who has a different face. They're all Justin Trudeau. They're all just like Justin. In the next election, I will be running against Justin Trudeau. Whether his name is Justin Trudeau, or his name is Chrystia Freeland, or Carbon Tax Carney, or Carbon Tax Clark, they will all be Justin Trudeau. They supported everything he's done, and they promise to keep doing it. And if they say otherwise, we know they're lying, because they would have done so earlier. Let's go through the list. You have Carbon Tax Carney himself. To this day, he's on the Liberal website as the Chief Economic Growth Advisor to Justin Trudeau. He hasn't even resigned from that position after Justin Trudeau has resigned himself as the leader. Presumably then, Carbon Tax Carney supports every single economic policy that has given us the worst decline in per capita GDP of any G7 country, that has doubled our debt, that has taxed our people, that has destroyed our productivity. Oh, there's one disagreement. Carbon tax Carney doesn't think that Justin Trudeau is spending enough on heat pumps. That's the only disagreement we can find so far between Mr. Trudeau and his top economic advisor, Carbon tax Carney. Then you have Carbon tax Chrystia, who stormed out as finance minister the day she was supposed to introduce the fall economic update, which would show our deficit 50% bigger than she had promised only 6 months earlier. She suddenly said she objected to the costly political gimmicks on which Trudeau had been spending money, gimmicks that she had publicly supported only weeks earlier in explicit boosterism on the floor of the House of Commons. She claims now she has some disagreement with the deficits that she ran. She disowns her own economic policy. Well, she didn't do that on principle, because she stayed on as finance minister months after she learned the deficit was bigger than she had promised, weeks after she learned the Prime Minister was throwing $4 billion away on a temporary tax trick and gimmick. She only announced she would resign after she learned she was fired. It was all about her. That's why they call her Carbon tax Chrystia. And then there's Carbon tax Clark. She's the queen of the carbon tax in British Columbia. She was the carbon tax queen before Justin Trudeau even got the idea. In fact, she might even have been the inspiration. Of course, BC had the first and the worst carbon tax. And Carbon tax Clark bragged, and you can look up the quote here, bragged that BC's carbon tax was the highest in North America and that it was twice as high as the federally imposed carbon tax. So they're all Justin Trudeau. They're all just like Justin. So what are they fighting about, given that they agree on all of the same disastrous economic policies? They're fighting for themselves. Liberals are putting Liberals first. It's time to put Canada first. Given that all of them are the same, all of them are just like Justin, let's get this decision out of the way. We need certainty now. We cannot wait. I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to do what he has the legal power to do. He can do it without his caucus supporting him. I'm calling on him to walk to Rideau Hall and announce that there will be an Axe the Tax election now, so that Canadians can take back control of their lives and country. The choice will be simple. Either the NDP Liberals, who tax your food, punish your work, double your housing cost, unleash crime and chaos and weakness on the world stage, or common sense Conservatives who will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime, and put Canada first. We will take back control of immigration, take back control of spending, take back control of our borders, take back control of inflation, taxes, and interest rates. Take back control of the country that we knew and still love, and we will put Canada first. We will stand up and we will state clearly that Canada is a sovereign and independent country, that we will protect our integrity as a nation through strength. First of all, this means a strong economy. We need a massive bring-it-home tax cut, lowering taxes on work, investment, energy, and making stuff in Canada will bring home billions of dollars of investment and paychecks, but will also make us more economically independent and less vulnerable to threats from abroad. Second, we need a Prime Minister who can make the case to our economic allies on the ground in America. We should go to the American workers in the Midwest and their union and business leaders and say, how many jobs are you prepared to lose by hitting Canadian energy with tariffs, energy that we sell to America at discounts that create six-figure jobs for American workers? How many of those people will go out of work? How many of those hard hats will be laid down and boots will be unfilled because Americans will lose jobs due to that self-harm if those tariffs go ahead? We need to go to American home builders and say, we can help you build more affordable homes if your government would stop tariffing our softwood lumber. We need to go to the American tech companies and say, you could have access to our unmatched, totally reliable and clean electricity sources for your data centers. AI requires 10 times as much electricity as traditional information technology does. We have the most uranium for nuclear centers. Meta, Google, Microsoft are all buying or refurbishing their own nuclear plants to power their data centers. We can do it for them here in Canada. Cold, dry climate, lots of energy, low cost, totally reliable, 100% ally right next door. We can provide that to America. And energy. Today, Venezuela being torn apart with opposition leaders being attacked. And what is America going to be forced to do? Buy Venezuelan oil instead of good, clean Canadian oil. Not only should we condemn Maduro and the dictators in Venezuela for what they're doing, we should shut them off by shutting down their energy and their oil sales and replacing it with Canadian oil sales. The Americans, our friends, want Canadian oil, not Venezuelan, not Iranian, and not other dirty dictator oil from around the world. These are the arguments that a strong Prime Minister with the brains and backbones to lead a country would be making right now if we had a serious government. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take back control and put our country first. That means rebuilding our economy, bringing home production, rebuilding our military, supporting a strong border, reinstating controls on immigration, and most of all, being proud of our country and unapologetic for our history. We need to honor our past and our shared values. We need to live out the dream that started with John A. Macdonald. Yes, I said John A. Macdonald, who believed in an independent and sovereign Canada. We need to uphold our heroes, stop tearing down our symbols, remind people who come here that when they're given a Canadian flag and they land on Canadian soil, that it's the greatest gift on earth and that they should be proud to be part of the Canadian family. That's what it means to be a proud Canadian. That's what it means to put Canada first. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor.
Bonjour, M. Poilievre, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada, juste ici, merci. On n'a pas beaucoup de temps, donc on vous demanderait, s'il vous plaît, de répondre aux questions en français et en anglais. Le Canada organise présentement sa réponse aux tarifs à M. Trump. Est-ce que, selon Pierre Poilievre, l'énergie, le pétrole, le gaz, l'électricité, devrait faire partie de cette riposte?
Vous dites de quelle façon devrait faire partie de cette réponse?
Avec des tarifs ou autres. De quelle façon?
Imposer les tarifs sur l'énergie américaine, ça ne sert pas beaucoup parce que c'est nous qui vendons l'énergie aux Américains, ce n'est pas le contraire. Nous vendons plus de 100 milliards de dollars de gaz et de pétrole aux Américains. C'est ça le total. 100% de notre surplus de commercial avec les Américains provient de l'énergie. M. Trump, le président, il se plaint de notre surplus envers les États-Unis. C'est 100% le résultat du fait que nous vendons notre gaz et notre pétrole au prix bien plus bas que le prix du marché. Et en passant, félicitations à Stephen Guilbeault, aux autres fanatiques anti-énergie. Ils ont donné un gros cadeau à Donald Trump. En bloquant les oléoducs, en bloquant les usines d'exportation de gaz naturel, on est obligé de vendre 99% de notre énergie aux Américains. On n'a pas d'autre marché. Ce que nous devrions faire, c'est de rapidement approuver l'infrastructure pour l'énergie, pour pouvoir exporter notre pétrole, notre gaz et nos autres sources d'énergie et de ressources aux étrangers à outre-mer. C'est comme ça que nous pouvons devenir plus indépendants, plus souverains et plus forts face aux menaces des Américains. Mais nous devrions rappeler aux Américains que maintenant le Canada leur donne un grand cadeau en vendant notre pétrole et notre gaz à très bas prix. On est stupide. C'est l'auto-sabotage que nous faisons, mais les Américains en profitent et on est attrapé à ça jusqu'au moment qu'un gouvernement Poilievre est capable de rapidement donner le feu vert au projet d'énergie pour exporter nos ressources outre-mer. The question was, should oil and gas and other energy be part of our response to the Americans? The reality is putting Canadian tariffs on American energy wouldn't do very much because they buy a hell of a lot more oil and gas from us than we do from them. In fact, our entire trade surplus with the Americans is the result of oil and gas. When President Trump complains about America's trade deficit with Canada, the concern he's raising really is that Canada is selling oil and gas at a massive price discount to American refineries and LNG plants that are able to massively profit at our expense. It is a ripoff. We're ripping ourselves off with this approach. Because of fanatical and stupid environmental extremists in the Liberal government and throughout the country, we are forced to sell almost all of our energy exports to the Americans. So the answer to that is to stop being stupid and start building LNG plants, pipelines, refineries, upgraders, and other energy infrastructure so that we can sell our energy to the world without going through the Americans. That would allow us the independence and the sovereignty that we need to support our economy free from these threats. But I would remind our American friends that they benefit from our affordable, reliable energy, and the alternative is Venezuela, Iran, and other foreign dictatorships. Why would we not want to have a North American energy market that enriches us both?
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre, Turia, Israel Global News. You spoke of the need to speak to our American allies to make the case against tariffs. So who have you spoken to directly since Trump's threat? And will you be reaching out to American lawmakers and business groups even before becoming Prime Minister to do what you say and put Canada first in English and French?
We need to put Canada first by locking arms with American economic allies on the ground that will put pressure on Washington to do the right thing. Look, I'm not Prime Minister. I respectfully ask the Canadian people to give me the chance to serve them in that role. But that's why we need an axe the tax election now. I need the mandate. The mandate to put our country first, to make the case to the Americans, to bring home production and paychecks to this country, to take back control and end the NDP Liberal chaos. The only way to get that is with an axe the tax election, and that's what I'm calling for Justin Trudeau to launch today. Je ne suis pas le Premier ministre. Malheureusement, les Canadiens n'auront pas un vrai Premier ministre pour des mois. On n'a que le chaos. Il n'y a aucun chef au Canada aujourd'hui qui a un mandat fort pour négocier avec les Américains. C'est pour ça que Justin Trudeau devrait déclencher des élections dès aujourd'hui pour permettre aux Canadiens de reprendre le contrôle avec une élection permettant aux Canadiens de choisir entre le chaos des libéraux et des séparatistes ou bien un gouvernement conservateur qui va mettre le Canada d'abord, qui va reprendre le contrôle de l'immigration, des frontières, des dépenses et de notre place au monde. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Next question.
Just move that down. Thank you. Stephanie Levitz, the Globe and Mail. Hello, Mr. Poilievre. Happy New Year.
Likewise.
For the first time in our living memory, a U.S. president is directly threatening our country. We have an election that's only weeks away, likely. Can you walk us through why you think Axe the Tax is still the ballot box question for this election and not something else?
Yes, because I think that it's ironic we have an American president who's threatening tariffs on Canada, and we have a Canadian government that is threatening even more devastating tariffs on Canada in the form of a carbon tax that will rise to 61 cents a litre. You know, the only person that would like the Canadian carbon tax to go to 61 cents a litre more than the NDP Liberals is President Trump, because he'll be on the phone with our trucking companies, our factories, our mines. He'll be saying, pick up your billions of dollars and move 50 kilometers south, create the jobs for Americans, and leave the carbon tax behind. In the words of Ross Perot, there'll be a large sucking sound of Canadian business jobs and money pouring out of our country, as America has no carbon tax and their other taxes will be dropping, while we're imposing this devastating economic vandalism on our businesses and workers. The only way to bring home paychecks and production is through massive tax cuts on work, savings, investment, making stuff in Canada, and energy. We need cheap, reliable energy to feed our businesses and bring home production for our people.
And in French.
Quadrupler la taxe sur l'essence et le diesel va favoriser les Américains parce que nos entreprises, nos fermiers n'auront pas la capacité de faire la concurrence avec les Américains qui ne paient pas de taxe carbone. Donc, comment est-ce que les fermiers canadiens vont pouvoir nourrir nos citoyens s'ils paient une taxe sur le carbone qui n'existe pas aux États-Unis, là où les fermiers vont payer rien? Comment les camionneurs canadiens, les usines des mines vont-ils pouvoir faire la concurrence? M. Trump sera à le téléphone avec nos entreprises, les invitant d'aller aux États-Unis. Il va y avoir une grande chute d'argent qui quittera notre pays pour les États-Unis. C'est des emplois, des entreprises et de croissance économique pour les Américains, et nous allons payer le prix. C'est pour ça qu'il faut éliminer les taxes. Mais ce n'est pas juste ça. Il faut couper les taxes sur l'énergie, sur les entreprises, couper les impôts pour encourager le travail. C'est comme ça que nous allons ramener la production ici au Canada.
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Kate McKenna, CBC News. Mr. Poilievre, Elon Musk seems to be a fan of yours. He tweeted a 100% emoji recently in response to a tweet that says, Pierre Poilievre is extremely impressive. He should be Canada's next leader. The sooner, the better. I'm wondering what you think of this, and do you accept his endorsement? In French and English, please.
Well, first of all, my 3-year-old has just told me that he wants to go to Mars. So I guess Mr. Musk would be the right guy to put him in touch with. The fact is that it'd be nice if we could convince Mr. Musk to open some of his factories here in Canada, and create some jobs, high-paying jobs for our people. I think Tesla, his company, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, automotive company in the world. Wouldn't it be nice if we were producing more without corporate welfare, without corporate subsidies like the Liberals favor? We had more of that production here in Canada. I think that would be fantastic. So if I ever get a chance to meet Mr. Musk, what I would say is, how do we make this an economy where we bring home hundreds of billions of dollars of investment to Canada so that our people get the paychecks? And why is it that after 9 years of NDP Liberals, it's Americans that are getting all the paychecks and all the growth? What is it that NDP Liberals have done wrong to drive these hundreds of billions of dollars out of our country? That is the question that all Canadians should be asking. And when I'm Prime Minister, there's going to be massive, this is the message that I have for the Americans, by the way. The days of us just handing over our businesses and our jobs because of our economic vandalism by this big, fat, money-hungry government in Ottawa are over. We're going to have a fierce, free market economy that competes with every country on earth. We're going to bring it home. En français? Comme je viens de dire, mon garçon de 3 ans vient d'annoncer à notre famille qu'il veut visiter la planète Mars. Donc, évidemment, M. Musk, c'est un bon contact d'avoir dans ce cas. Mais si j'avais la chance de parler directement à M. Musk, je lui demanderais comment est-ce qu'on peut attirer plus d'investissements ici au Canada. Je pense que M. Musk est le fondateur et propriétaire de l'entreprise d'automobile la plus grande au monde. Comment pouvons-nous, sans faire le PS coopératif, attirer cet investissement ici au Canada? Pourquoi notre gouvernement a-t-il expulsé tous ces investissements aux États-Unis? Pourquoi c'est les Américains, leurs ingénieurs, leurs travailleurs qui reçoivent ces chèques de paie? Que devrions-nous faire pour ramener cette production ici au Canada? C'est ça une bonne question. Moi, je vais couper les taxes et les impôts pour les entreprises et je vais aussi éliminer le BS coopératif. Je vais couper la bureaucratie, les consultants, le gaspillage, et on va avoir une économie libre et ouverte qui est capable de faire la concurrence avec tous les autres pays. J'ai un avertissement aux Américains aussi. Les jours où le gouvernement du Canada expulse des milliards de dollars avec des politiques étatiques chères et destructrices sont finis. Quand je serai Premier ministre, nous allons avoir une économie libre avec moins de taxes, moins d'impôts, moins de paperasse et plus d'entreprises et des plus grands chèques de paie. Parce que nous allons rebâtir la promesse du Canada, que chacun qui travaille fort devrait avoir un plus grand chèque de paie qui est capable d'acheter des logements et de la nourriture abordable dans les quartiers sécuritaires. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. No, I'm not.